Job number one is protecting QB1. Who's going to do that? What's the lineup look like today on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. Happy Red Friday, the last one before you're going to see training camp. We're going over the Chiefs' Secret Service platoon. That is the offensive line. Who, where, when, and what. We're going to get into it today. Thanks for making us your first listen. Check out another Locked On show for your next listen, because we're here 5 days a week on every platform, on every show. So you can find out about the teams you want to know about. You can hit the fantasy show. You can hit the NFL show. You can even hit the draft show if you're just itching for more draft content right now. You can find it all on Locked On Chiefs, because we're here 5 days a week, you everydayers. Thank you for making us your choice. You can get more information if you want to hit the text line. That's 816-357-8781. You can get in the action that way as well. We appreciate you helping us out and being here with us. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, as well as RGR Football.
And I'm Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. Thank you all for listening and watching. We really do appreciate it. YouTube has grown a ton over the past year. Hope you guys have enjoyed that. And we are getting ready to start. I know we're talking online today, but I do want to say this as well. Ryan, I think we're kicking off year 8 of the show, getting ready with training camp. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to me to think it's 7 or 8. I'm not sure. We're like 1,800 or 1,500 episodes, somewhere in there. It's ridiculous, but thank you all. Thank you to the locos. We do appreciate you. You make us better every day, and thank you for listening. We really do appreciate it. So want to throw that shout out there to all of you.
Really that long? Good Lord. Okay. Well, thanks for everyone who's here today and who's been on the ride with us. We very much appreciate that. I swear it doesn't make me feel older in any way, shape, or form, I promise. But What does make me feel older is that Patrick Mahomes is 27 years old, going on 28, and that trips me out. So this is the point that we start to talk about what is job one. And I think Veach has shown that. Andy Reid has shown that. And it's about protection for QB1. That's it. That's the name of the game. From here on forth, for the rest of the Patrick Mahomes contract or contracts, that's what it's about. So who gets the job done today? We're going to start. And I think this is probably the bigger question mark, to my mind, on this offensive side of the ball, rather than the wide receiver position. We spent a lot of time on that earlier in our position review deep dives. If you guys missed that, go back. It's from early last week. And remember, we're doing every position here on the run up to training camp that is coming for you in a couple of days. We're here every day for you. So make sure you go check out the rest of those shows. Are you as concerned about this as I am?
I am a little bit, but I think actually the wide receiver was 2 weeks ago, because we've done that many position reviews.
Okay.
And I did check. It's over 1,800 episodes. So, yeah, thank you very much. We do appreciate that. A lot of fun. And the crazy thing to me, and I want to just get this in really quick, because one of the things that came out was the under 25 series. Chiefs have 2 players on the offensive line in the under 25 series that are considered the best at their position at that age group of under 25. And you start looking at Creed Humphrey, you start looking at Trey Smith. Those are the 2 guys that they're talking about. The crazy thing is, in that one draft, Kansas City also got Nick Bolton. All 3 of those guys in the same draft, 2 of them in the same second round. Just an absolutely nuts draft for Kansas City. And then they go back and they do what they did last year, and they got all the pieces that come in after that for last year.
Yeah, it's been a great 2-year run in terms of drafting. And now, not for this season. I think we could let it go for now, but soon thereafter, we're going to have to start talking about extensions for that particular class, when that comes in, absolutely, and how they're going to manage that.
It's going to be after this year.
We're going to call that cap catastrophe. We're going to talk about that in March, folks. Yep. We're going to hold off on that for now, because right now, those are 2 of the most ascending players on this offense outside of Patrick Mahomes. Kadarius Toney's on the way up, yes, but these 2 guys, I think Creed Humphrey in particular has the ability to become an all-pro this season. I think Trey Smith is just a touch behind him, more on the recognition factor than his actual play, but I do think he still has some upside to him. So I think he can hit Pro Bowl at least this year. If they get the spotlight and the attention the national and all these night games are going to show, I won't be surprised if either of those things happen.
Well, and I'm not so sure that Trey Smith didn't deserve to be in the Pro Bowl last year. I think the way he plays, he probably deserves it. Problem is name recognition, and you have to be on the team. And Kansas City has that, but it's still a guard. Guard is still not a great position. Center gets a little bit more fanfare than guard, and that's just what it is. Joe Thuney's been doing it for so long. That's why he continues to get the praise that he does. And I'm not saying he's not great, because he is.
Mhm.
But, Trey Smith is a guy that I think really deserved to be a Pro Bowler, and he has played at that level basically since he came into the league. Kansas City got lucky, and I'm glad that they were able to look at his injury status and figure out that they can work around it and get him to be able to play.
I completely agree. The interior three are elite. They could be, this season, in terms of performance, they could be the best interior three in the NFL. They're certainly within striking distance if they don't quite get there. The question's always been the tackles for the last 6 months. It still is, because the acquisition of Jawan Taylor, I think, perfectly fits. But despite all the hubbub, he's a right tackle. He's going to stay at right tackle. They haven't practiced him at all at left. So he's staying over there on the right-hand side. And by my count, despite all the flowery language that we've heard this offseason, this roster has 3 right tackles, including 2 guys that are going to be the backups. But that's the way that it starts. The question's over on the left-hand side. And that is one Donovan Smith, who was surprisingly released by Tampa Bay. They're in some cap structure issues. It was more about money than it was performance, but 2021 was clearly a better year for Donovan Smith than 2022 was. That was mostly related to injury by my estimation and by his proclamation. Do you buy that? Do you think we get the 2021 version of Donovan Smith?
Well, it's going to be tough. He's getting up there in age, so it's going to be one of those things where he's fighting age plus injury history last year. So I think that it could be tough to be 2021. But I will say this. Kansas City has a great training staff. Kansas City has the ability to help players be healthier than a lot of other teams do. So I do think that could help him. I'm hoping that we get the 2021 version. But the other side of it, and I want to say this really quick, I think the interior three have really been set pretty much since they drafted Creed and they drafted Trey Smith and they brought in Joe Thuney. We've always had questions at tackle. Even when they had Orlando Brown, we still had questions at tackle. At left tackle, we had a question, is he going to really fit the offense? And it looked like he could fit it to an extent, but then he never really got to the point where you would expect him to get to based on what he showed in Baltimore. But it's a different type of offense, so he never really fit. And I think they took the swing to trade for him. And I think that they would do it again. Obviously got him to the Super Bowl and they got them, where they are right now. So I think that helped. But again, I think the interior three has been said. It's always been a question of, can you get the tackles figured out? And in some ways, it's actually kind of funny because if you think back when they had Willie Rofe and they had Will Shields and they had, that great four, it was always the question at right tackle. Now I almost feel like it's the same thing, but it's switched over. And now it's the question at left tackle because I think Jawan Taylor is going to be a very good right tackle for this team. They know what they got in him. He knows what he signed up for in Kansas City. And I think he really wanted to be here. So, and I know they're paying him a ton of money, but he's playing again. He's playing with some of the best offensive linemen in the NFL in the interior three. I think he's going to have a great season.
I agree. And the money doesn't bother me. That's what everybody was complaining about when Joe Thuney signed. There is no better investment than protecting Patrick Mahomes. Who can do that? And who are going to be the guys that have that opportunity should an injury happen? Who's next up? We're going to get to that right after we tell you about our newest partnership. And I think you guys are going to dig it.
Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks every single week, all season long. Whether you're playing for this draft right now or you're scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to give you the best fits guaranteed to make your roster. With draft prep underway for this season right now, let's see who Vinny has for us with eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. And you should be excited, especially if you're in the hunt for the number one pick overall, because you have a shot at Justin Jefferson. You can be giddy about it. Go ahead. Because he is a guaranteed fit no matter what your roster is. For over the past 2 seasons, he has been the leader in both receptions for you PPR guys and in receiving yards. He will be dominant again and a target monster. You want to go grab him as soon as you possibly can, especially if you have that number one. Now, Vinny's going to help you all season long with the fantasy football lineup suggestions, obviously the guaranteed picks, so that you can win a fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows what a championship team is about, and each player has to be a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, there's over 122 million parts, accessories, and everything that you need at your fingertips just for your ride and make sure that it runs smoothly. Whether it's brakes or taillights, anything in between, Guaranteed Fit helps you understand exactly what you need for your vehicle the very first time. So go out there, switch gears, crank the AC, and say goodbye to sweating. If your ride needs a little bit of fixing up, right now, you'll always have to be set up for success and have that right part when you need it from the get-go. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, everything in your vehicle is just a click away. For parts, accessories that fit your vehicle, just look for that green check mark. Get the parts right, get the right fit, get the right prices at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available for U.S. customers, eligible items only, and exclusions apply.
I want to say really quick as we jump back in to talk about this. One of the reasons that Kansas City is able to do what they're able to do with the wide receiver group and still be as effective, I'm not saying the players aren't good, is because they've invested so heavily in the offensive line. That gives you the extra time to be able to have guys that maybe can't get the quick separation that you would normally want. But because they've invested so much in the offensive line and because they have guys that are playing so effectively at that position, it opens up the ability to have a different type of offense and be able to maybe run some deeper routes, maybe run some different route combinations that you couldn't if your offensive line wasn't as good as the Chiefs is.
Yeah, it's an imperative. And it goes back to that foundational philosophy. You always have to give the quarterback what he needs first and let the pass catchers make adjustments. If you are to skimp on this line anymore, I think we've already seen where we got a little bit nervous. I think we've seen just a hair's breadth of falling short of a championship against the Buccaneers, a disastrous game, right? We've also seen an injury to Patrick Mahomes. We know we'll never see him sneak again, but that goes to the same lines of always have the foundation, the offensive line that can protect him no matter what. That's always going to be job one from the day that it started, probably after that injury in Denver, out to the day that Patrick retires. That will be the philosophy. So where do they go? And like we talked about in the last segment, I really do feel that there's three right tackles on this group. And that includes both Lucas Niang, who was not given the opportunity to go to left. He is still recovering from the patella tendon rupture. That is a significant injury. And now new draft pick Wanya Morris, who played better on the right in college than he did on the left, but does have left experience. And now they seem to be repping him, at least in OTAs, over on the left-hand side. So it looks like your backup tackles right now are Wanya Morris, the rookie at the left-hand side, who, if any kind of re-injury happens to Donovan Smith, should be the first guy in. And Lucas Niang, again, a backup on the right-hand side. Two guys, significant size, but very different paths to this position.
Yeah, and I will say, I would argue that if it comes to a Donovan Smith injury and it's a lengthy injury, I'm not going to be shocked if they move Juwan Taylor over. Now, we talk about how that's a bad situation in most cases, but I don't know that you really want to have Wanya Smith be your left tackle and feel good about it week one if something happens to Donovan Smith in training camp. And I'm not saying I expect him to get injured, but we have to play in for anything. So to me, it's a matter of, is it going to be a long-term injury with Donovan Smith? If it's not, then I think probably they're okay with Wanya Morris. But if it's something where they think he's going to be out 2 months, I'm not going to be surprised if they move Juwan Taylor over and just have Niang or Wanya Morris take over at right tackle.
Well, I think that would probably be the easier transition because Juwan has said up and down about how easily he feels he can flip over to the left-hand side. But then you get back into that concept of weakening two positions at once.
You do. But he also started working out in the offseason and showing kick moves from the left side. So he's already kind of been working on that. They may not be doing it in camp, but he was working on that before they brought in Donovan Smith, before they brought in Wanya Morris. He was thinking he may be the left tackle, and he was working towards that. So that's going to help him in the progression. I agree with you. You weaken two positions at once if you do it. But I still feel like you feel a lot better about having Juwan Taylor at left tackle than having Wanya Morris starting for 8 games.
Possibly. I'm really intrigued to see how this battle progresses in camp and if we see the rep structure stay the same. I think either way, both these guys are set as the backups currently. And then the switcheroo, we'll see how that works out. But that's 7 guys. And we've talked back and forth about how many make this 53-man roster. It's somewhere between 8 and 10. So if you had to pick the next guy For me, it's clearly Nick Allegretti because he can play all three interior positions. He's a shoo-in in my book.
He is in mine too. And the big question mark I still have on Lucas Niang is I think he's a shoe-in for the roster, but it's going to be a big question mark how he shows up at training camp because when you're in OTAs, you're not really doing anything that you're going to be doing in training camp. You're not having to anchor. You're not having to do anything else. How is his injury going to hold up? Does he still have the strength? And does he still have the ability to do what he was doing before? That's going to be the big question with me when it comes to that right tackle position, the backup right tackle position. So that's going to be something to watch in training camp. I agree with you completely. Nick Allegretti is number 8. I don't think there's any question in my mind. And I'd probably put him at 6. I think he's probably, if you look at bringing in anybody for like a heavy situation, I think they're going to Allegretti first. So I put him really at the number 6 spot. I know why you were talking 8 because you've already got the tackles, but I'd say he's probably their first lineman off the bench, other than if they have to put a tackle out there.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. So that gets us to 8. So we have to go to 9. That leaves what I think is, if you look at the roster currently, I think it's a battle for that number 9 spot, if that is the last spot, between Darian Kinnard, Austin Ryder. Mike Caliendo might be in that mix as well, but those two, Austin Ryder and Darian Kinnard, are probably in the mix. I would lean toward Kinnard myself.
I think it has to be Kinnard. I don't think that they're going to give up on him that quickly. And the big question with him is he going to be able to get to a position where he can have quicker feet? Because he wanted to play right tackle, didn't have the opportunity to play right tackle. But he's been training. He looks like he's lost weight this offseason. How does that translate into what he's able to do when the pads come on and when he's able to get into, actually pass blocking and trying to anchor and doing one of the best drills at training camp. And if you go to training camp, you need to go watch the offensive versus defensive lineman 101s. That is one of the best drills to go watch because you get an idea of where these players really are, where their strengths are, and how they deal with different players coming at them and how they attack the defenders that are coming at them.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's really intriguing to see how that could change. Who can play multiple roles? Who can be the versatility guy that we know that this team looks for? That's going to be part of that equation. But who's fighting for that last spot or could push somebody? Who are the depth guys that could make the practice squad or be available later in the season? We'll take a look at them coming up next.
And I'm excited to tell you about our friends over at Bird Dogs because Bird Dogs make you look good. Bird Dogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. They do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better than Lululemon shorts do. They fit better than regular shorts as well because they are made of a stiff, restricting cotton, but they fix the issue of not being able to move because they invented a knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice the movement. Bird Dogs uses an anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Right now, you can get some money off if you go to birddogs.com/lockedonnfl or enter promo code lockedonnfl for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedonnfl or promo code lockedonnfl for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. Depth guys are important. I have to ask a question. Do you think Kinnard can play 3 spots? I don't mean center, both guards and right tackle. Because I think that gives him a leg up if he can do that over Ryder, who is only going to be an interior guy.
I am intrigued by the question because I don't have the answer.
Yep.
Last season, I would say no. He cannot play tackle.
Yep.
His feet were not good enough. But like you said, especially at the ring ceremony, Darian Kinnard's lost some bad weight. He looks pretty trim. Looks like he may put on some good weight as well. I think that all goes to show that he's serious about it. The question is going to be, have his feet improved enough to be out at tackle? I said from the day he was brought in, he's a guard at this level. I think he can certainly play both guards.
Yeah, and the big question is Duke. He's been working with Duke Manyweather, who a lot of these offensive linemen train with, and has he been able to improve enough? And that's one of the biggest keys when you start looking at these depth positions is what are they doing in the time when they're not at the facility? You look at some of the offensive linemen, they're going to this Duke Manyweather thing. Travis Kelce has his tied into you. You have all these different things that pro players are doing on the outside working out. but some of them are getting to a point where they're actually doing some of their positional drills and things that are going to help them out on the outside, and they're investing in their careers. That's, I think, what also could put Kennard in a position to be on this roster this year.
I certainly hope so. That would be probably the best case scenario, because if it's not him, if he isn't one of the top 9 players, can he make 10? If it's 10 right now, I have to drift towards the guy who did get some second team reps in OTAs, and we've seen him be in the mix in years past. Prince Tega Wanogho's been on this roster for a bit, and I do think he has not hit his ceiling. The question is, can he get there? And only really Andy Heck and Andy Reid could tell you that. In my opinion, he would be next, but there's some interesting names back here. We already mentioned Mike Caliendo. The really intriguing one for me are the 2 rookies in Hardy Anderson from App State and Jerome Carvin, who played at Tennessee with Wanya. And I don't think he overlapped with Trey, but I could be wrong. Those 2 guys in particular, not to cast aspersions on Sebastian Gutierrez or Godric, those are the guys that I think could be right now in training camp able to push for a practice squad spot, be on that edge, be that 10th type guy.
Yep. And it's going to be all dependent on what they're able to show and what they're able to do. And the key on some of that is going to also be watching when you get into training camp, watch who comes in as the second unit, watch who comes in as, because in training camp, they'll also do drills where they'll say, okay, this lineman's out for this play. Who's the next guy that they bring up at that position on different lines? I mean, that's something to watch. And then watch it in games too. If you see the second unit out there, but you see a third string lineman out there, that's a question of, okay, they want to see what this guy can do with this unit. They want to get an idea of how he's going to play against this type of competition with the rest of the unit like this around him. That's important to watch. And I know people don't like watching the trenches, but if you want to know where the offensive linemen are going to be, that's how you figure it out, is you watch what they do in preseason games and you go watch in training camp. A lot of great information is going to be coming out over the next couple of weeks when it comes to all of this.
I completely agree. Who makes the jump is going to be the question. It's one thing to get in there. Rookies will have a little bit of a transition. They'll be able to be in early. That will help Wanya Morris in particular in this group, but Hardy Anderson, Jerome Carvin as well. They'll have an option to kind of get their feet under them. That conditioning test is looming early in camp before the vets get there. So take advantage of all you can. So I'm looking forward to it. We want to know who you're looking forward to seeing on this offensive line group. Who's the next Secret Service member to protect Patrick Mahomes? You can check that out at text us at 816-357-8781 and give us your opinion. If you want the Secret Service stuff, you can go over to the RGR store. You can get that over at the RGR channel. It's on all the video descriptions. So check that out if you like. I'm intrigued at what happens here on the first couple of days. Camp is just about here, folks. I know it's starting early this year, so enjoy every moment of it. We're going to be back next week in preparation for that day when we first start to see the first players arrive. Enjoy your weekend. Have a blast and get ready, because football is just about upon us now. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for spending your time with us today. Make sure you like, sub, and hit that bell. Get subbed on the audio platforms as well as this channel right here. Thanks for your time. We appreciate you being with us. We'll talk to you Monday.